And we're good. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Betsperts Golf WGC Match Play Betting Preview. I am Ryan Noonan, excited to be joined by the director of all things content related at Betsperts, Andy Molitor. Andy, nice little change of pace this week with the Match Play.
Yeah, golf starts early. Can't get a normal week. Just 2 days between tournaments for the rest of my life, apparently. So I'm guessing Puntacana plays until Monday now too. So I don't get a normal week for Valero either. But it's fun having two tournaments. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, these poor guys are going to be playing a lot of golf heading into the Masters. It'll be interesting to see what happens to the guys who make it to the weekends here. But also joining us now in this spot every week moving forward is your favorite golf touts. It is the man from the Mayo Media Network, Jeff Feinberg. Jeff, could not be happier to have you on board, my friend. Really looking forward to this. And I love that we have you on board for really one of your favorite events on the calendar to kick things off, buddy. Welcome.
Ryan, thank you so much. Everyone at Betsperts, I'm really excited to join you guys every Tuesday morning now, Ryan. So it seems like, I don't know, sort of a perfect time. I compare Tuesday mornings in many sense to the golf content week moves so fast. It's like how you feel about seeing odds on Monday morning of a golf tournament is like how you feel sometimes about odds seeing them on Sunday night after a long day of football or the next morning. And later down the week, you just feel so much different. In golf, well, for me, that's kind of Tuesday morning. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm part of the team at Betsperts, and Andy's a guy that I've been laughing at in a good way, like with him, not at him, or when it's at him, it's on purpose because he's self-deprecating like myself. So looking forward to chatting with him on the regular and everyone here over at Betsperts. So thank you very much. And Match Play, let's go.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I know you did something similar yesterday with Pat that Andy and I did, just kind of walking through it. At the time, we didn't really have group odds. We had, pre-bracket outright odds only. So excited to kind of go through. And like you said, now that you've had a little bit more time to formulate thoughts and opinions and look at the betting board and see how the markets have kind of matured here as we're, 24 hours out from teeing off on a Wednesday. Interested to see where the thoughts are. So I want to remind folks, everything's still free over at betspertsgolf.com. So head over there right now, live free for just this week. We are going behind the paywall starting next week for the Valero. We will have Corrales content as well as everything you could possibly want for the match play. So check that out. We have tools on the way very, very soon. Our Discord is currently free as well. Hop in there. Betspertsgolf.com/newsletter is going to be the best way for you to stay in the loop with all of the new offerings, all of the content that is coming in there too. Andy's done a great job putting that bad boy together every week. Really happy with that. And again, the best way to access a sub at betspertsgolf.com is to head over to 4for4 and get a betting sub. The betting sub at 4for4 is going to be going up pretty drastically actually after the Masters because we continue to add more content, more tools, more sports. Right now, basically, it's an early bird price. A betting sub at 4for4 gets you a free Betsperts Golf sub. Cannot beat that. Take advantage of that. You're basically spending, you're saving like 65, almost 70% getting both of them together. So definitely want to check that out. Again, all the March Madness stuff if you want. If your brackets are dead and you want to start firing off on college player props, we have a player prop tool for the NCAA tournament that has been really successful so far. Excited about that. We launched MMA last week, so really trying to make sure that we aren't just football anymore, keeping your beak wet with all the different sports that are out there for you to get down on
all year long. And that's the beauty of this golf product too, is just like how it marries so well with football.
Love it.
I put, again, if you're listening to this in a podcast, you certainly can't see it, but at Betsperts Golf, real simple. Follow that Twitter. If you follow that Twitter, there's a pinned tweet that has links to damn near everything Ryan just mentioned. You can get the Discord, you get the newsletter, you can get the YouTube channel, you can get the podcast stuff. So check that out. And then you mentioned brackets. Also, Ryan tweeted this out. If you don't follow him at Ryan Noonan on Twitter, he tweeted out we're doing a group for the bracket. I mean, if your brackets are busted, fill out a golf bracket. You can go to the PGA Runs bracket challenges. We created a private group there where you can join, and the winner gets a free sub for a year here at Betsperts Golf. So I will fill out a bracket and try to win so we can. I mean, it'll just save us some money if an employee wins. We're not like McDonald's where an employee can't win the $1 million on Boardwalk. This is, if I win this challenge, I'm not giving someone a sub. So you gotta, to be the best, you gotta beat the best for sure. And I'm excited to get into, because I haven't even touched that bracket yet.
We were tasked to win, or our boss did tell us to go out and win. So we are trying to beat you in there. We got about 100 folks in there already. Free, hop in there. Again, check out my Twitter. There's a link, and the link is also on the Betsperts Golf Twitter as well. So, Jeff, I want to get your thoughts on a couple of things here before we start to talk about actual players for match play. And actually, it's kind of a good week to do that because we do have a second tournament, and you and I are in the same boat. We haven't touched Corrales, so if you're looking for Corrales analysis, you can find it on BetspertsGolf.com later in the day. I am not prepared to give you any Corrales takes today, but talk to me a little bit about bankroll management, and kind of twofold, right? So how do you approach a week in general? And then really in a week like this where we have two tournaments, I know you want to overextend yourself theoretically in match play because you really like the event, but how do you allocate a bankroll when there is a second tournament on board? Is it just a double bankroll week? Are you trying to maybe dial it back a little bit more? How do you kind of approach, having two basically boards this week to look at?
Everything is very fluid, I guess, in a sense, Ryan. Like, I went into this Monday thinking I can't wait to smash some outrights and match play. I like it so much, and the bracket comes out, and I don't know, it's because I just love golf and I love so many golfers. Every golfer's path seemed so hard to me that I treaded so lightly in making bets thus far. Overall, to your point, every week, like I did say, is kind of like a life of its own. With Corrales, if I like Corrales, I'll bet it normally. It's just part of the 52 freaking tournaments that the PGA calendar gives us. The monotony. I mean, it's part of the reason I like match play so much. It's a break from all the hardcore DFS sort of stuff. But there's so many weeks to do different things, and match play is the ultimate change of pace. It's almost too close to the Masters for me, because I'd be embarrassed how high I rank this event of my favorites of the year. But yeah, so this is a week where it can get deep if I actually fully extend myself into Corrales. Full transparency, kind of like you, I haven't even really made match play wagers yet, so I'm not even prepared to deal with Corrales, at least at this moment in time, if that makes sense. I gotta take care of my own kids, or I could take care of someone else's. That's how I would look at that. But week in, week out, if I like a board, I'm gonna attack it. I guess the one thing in terms of bankroll management is when I win, that win is gonna buy me more than a couple weeks. That would be my biggest mistake I think I see with how some people bet golf, is they hit a winner and they're really proud of themselves, but it's really only free rolling a couple weeks for them, and that seems incredibly difficult and hard to do. That being said, I have to be prepared to literally go winless for a long time. This isn't like football. I can't win it back by picking a 50-50 point spread game. I can't. I gotta just be prepared to take the L, and that is something with the long-term approach to golf, which I know a lot of people don't do. They love so many sports, and they like just coming in and out of golf when they, when it works for them, for their schedule, or just, maybe they won money playing the sports they love, and now they're into golf. For the every week golfer, I just say be disciplined. And outside of the Florida events, excluding the Valspar, how do I put this? Be disciplined and be prepared to take your losses. Chasing is not fun either. I don't know if I answered your question per se, Ryan.
Yeah, I think so.
I could get hyper specific, but I kind of lost track in my own mind. And it's something
everybody does it a little differently. And
that's kind of what I wanted to get a feel for, because I do think it is for multiple reasons, like you touched on, Jeff, because people do dabble. And versus a mix in of people that are doing it week in and week out, and there are so many ways to bet it too. So it is kind of a unique way
choose
to
your own adventure, like in all aspects of it. You could, I mean, this is a hard week. I don't normally bet daily head-to-heads because I feel like there's so many variables in that. Match play, the concept of it will actually make me do that. But first round leaders, I don't know. There's so many ways to do it. I have friends that go like nuts when they bet on golf, and they like betting the 10th pole events, and then they don't bet it at all. And it's just like, how do I put this? They'll go crazy. They'll make all these live bets because they're like into it and they're watching. And I'm like, I got to wake up the next morning and talk about the Houston Open and like not hate myself. So
right.
I do try to just take a long-term approach. And I guess this isn't the first thing you want to hear from someone who you want to like bring on to talk golf for betting outright winners, but I'm prepared to go cold, if that makes any sense. It's outright golf betting, at least for me.
Yeah. And that's what I really wanted to get, a sense of too, because I know like I love finishing position bets. Andy loves match, heads up. So, because there are so many ways.
I think it's what you're good at too. Like you do well with those, and it's just like anything else, like, matchups. And I've just learned this over the time. I look at what I do and what I do well, and I try to, there's two ways to look at it. It's like, hey, I'm doing this well and I'm doing this poorly. You can say, should I spend time trying to fix what I'm doing poorly, or should I spend more time and more money on what I'm doing well? And I think what I do poorly is outrights. I don't hit a ton of outrights. I don't bet a ton of outrights. I struggle with the variance that comes with how hard it is to win a tournament. I still bet them every week when I see numbers I like, but I early on learned, I'm like, man, I'm hitting like 60% on matchups, and maybe I shouldn't piss away 10 outrights every week, because I look at how much I'm spending on those, and it just came to fruition that, for a couple of years I mostly bet matchups. And it's funny about like Jeff talking about the guys that bet one tournament, the tent poles, like that's how I started. And it's dumb how like I was just lucky, and that's probably why I bet golf now. Like I only would bet the Masters. That's all I would ever do. I'd tickle a little bit here and there if I knew someone who had a good tip or a hot tip, and I'm going to bet this guy. But like, really, I didn't start betting golf till a couple of years ago, and we wanted to do some Masters content. So I spent some modicum of, time researching, and I hit the Patty Reed 50-1. Like I go back and look at my process for hitting that, and it was horrible. Like I was lucky. I wasn't good. It was just pure luck.
I mean, it's all luck with the outright bet. And I say I'm lucky to have gotten lucky. Like it's all of it. You're going to call a player at 90-1. It sounds weird to say, but I'm just hoping he played. Like I'm just projecting him to play well. Like winning, I already know before I make that bet, like what actually needs to happen for that to go down. And on top of all of it, I would love to, like, I know that the smart money in golf, the quantifiable money in golf is in those tournament head-to-heads. Like I am aware of that existence.
Yeah, but you've also hit what 5-6 outrights already this year. I mean, I thought you did between a couple other like off stuff. I thought you hit a bunch already.
Let's pump it up. Let's
I don't know. Just a nice little 12. Run there with List, Neiman, Hoagie.
Okay.
But then I'm mad at myself when a run of guys in that like range that I really like to bet have come in the last few weeks that have kind of been right over my head, to be perfectly honest. But no, I don't know what off market we're talking about here. I'm trying to remember.
Just go with it, Jeff. We're just trying to sell.
9, 10, 11 outrights.
I didn't hit any Scotty Scheffler outright, so I don't.
I was with you on the Hoagie one. The Hoagie one feels like 3 wins, right? So sometimes you get one in that can sustain you for a little bit when you're up into the 60s and above. That feels pretty nice.
I like having fun with it. It is like, for me as a sports fan, the only thing outside of football season, having like a heater ticket on Sunday doesn't come close, but it's the only thing that like gives me the same somewhat feels of like This is a big third down. This is a big third down. Is a golf ticket that's hot on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, we're talking again just bankroll management. Like if I'm looking, I want to make money doing this, I'm going to have to bet a lot of matchups because that's what I excel at long term. But if you want to have some fun with this and it's just weekend money, or you enjoy at least breaking even, like if you're not doing outrights, you're doing it wrong. Like Jeff said, there's no feeling like seeing your guy in the final group having a big fat ticket on Sunday or anything like that. Like again, I think I'm 0 for the year so far as calendar year on outrights. But last year I hit the Barbasol and major double with Power and Morikawa in the same week. Like I was walking around my house like a god. Like, and my wife didn't even really understand what happened. Like, just walking on clouds. Like, you guys. And
the smartest people I know in the space, they don't bet outrights, or they do. They just make smaller little side bets on them because they don't deal like. They don't want to deal with those variables. Those are the most unquantifiable variables you can deal with. 150 guys playing their own ball, sometimes in totally different weather conditions.
Yeah.
You play the sport one time in your life, you realize how stupid it is. I say that from like the most from
a place of love.
Yeah. Absolute a place of endearment. Yeah. I have friends that I think are the smartest in the space. And if there's a major at a place they've never been before and they have no data points, it's a strict no bet event. I'm like, whoa, like, how can you know? They don't care. They don't care. So, but when they get those advantages, like it's an MLB game on a tournament head to head on their spreadsheets, that's all systems go sort of thing, but nothing to do with outright winners. That's a luck sack. That's a roulette spin.
Yeah. I just think this is a good conversation to have because I think that there are a lot of people watching and listening that have different approaches. And because it is a different game, there's more binary outcomes when you're betting an NFL game, sides and totals, maybe player props. We're not getting into all these different ways where we can get into round by round matchups. We can get into 72 hole matchups, finishing positions, first round leaders, outrights. There are just nationality props. I mean, we can get really, really wonky in the game of golf, and it's a lot of fun, but we want to have an understanding of, how do you do it? And I know that we've talked offline, but I think it's good at conversations to have people get an understanding of how you approach a card and how you approach a week like this, where there are two events.
And this is no secret, full transparency. Like there's nothing new. Like anything, if it's a big event, I like the event. Like I'm one of those people. I'll bet guys I like. Who do I want to see win? That is who I will bet. I'll look at like the Masters or a major championship, like I will the Chargers in a playoff game. Like I might think the other side represents good value, but I never bet it. Like there's only one bet to make in those weeks. And those are the guys that I want to see have their legacies changed, because at heart, I'm a golf fan and I don't see myself or sell myself as a professional gambler. I'm betting because I love to watch golf. I love to watch the best players in the world play golf. I love to bet. And I love to play golf very poorly myself. So it's a trifecta of things that work perfectly into being just addicted to golf betting.
Yeah, and like if you're going to be a professional gambler, you need to have a high level of discipline. You need to have a high level of bankroll management and all that. But like again, if you any tier below that, like for sure, have some fun with this. Like again, at the point, again, another Masters story. When we get to the Masters that our friend Eldrick won, I was at a point where people had introduced me to numerous sites where I could start digging into data. And I was actually making data-driven golf bets at that point. And I made 4 or 5 outright bets for that tournament. And then at the end of it, I said, I'm also betting Tiger, because I will feel so horrible if he's anywhere near the lead on Sunday. And I said, this isn't even a good number. Like this number is depressed because the whole world's betting it. I said, I don't give a shit. I want to see him win this. And I think one of my other outrights was in the running. And I remember, like, I will make so much more money with this other guy, and I can't cheer for him. Like, my brain is completely broken because I'm such a golf fan at this point.
I mean, that's a bigger picture conversation that I'd love to have, but I'll just say blatantly, the numbers are never fair. I don't care if you're betting someone 150 to 1 or you're betting the guy at the top at 12, 14 to 1. We are never getting a good number on somebody to win a 150-man tournament. I
agree. Totally agree.
You know, and I don't even care. You could think a number's good, and there have been times where like, well, this book has 50, that book has 80. If it's a player I want to bet, then I'm running to do it. But if it's a player I don't think who can win, I don't care about the third. Like, those points are literally irrelevant to me. I don't think the player is going to win this week. I'm also wrong a lot as well, but we're never getting a fair number. I like seeing newer things being introduced into the space with boosts and offers. I think, like, if they're going to offer boosts, they should just let you boost whoever you want, because I think some of those are clearly manufactured, in some respects. And unless they let us boost whoever they want, then I'll continue to believe that. And I'll close by saying I make my golf bets knowing that all the numbers are ridiculous. I just pick a guy to win a golf tournament at 150 to 1. You're going to give me 28 to 1. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, it's like relative to the market or relative to what we would think in our mind this player is typically priced at. But from like a fair value standpoint, I think you make a good point. It's like,
and it's all we've known. It's all we've known, and it's all we've done. And I like doing it, and I do it more for fun than like as a profit venture, the actual betting, like wagering itself. So don't get me wrong. Like, oh yeah, lose my shirt for got ice in Florida. So we're coming. I'm happy to leave Florida. I tell you, boys, happy to leave Florida.
Well,
even though it was entertaining as shit, didn't do me no favors.
No. Well, Austin Country Club is one. Reading Ron Kloss's player quotes article on the site that was pretty interesting, because this is a unique course that the players seem to really like, but also are very excited that is a matchup, match play style course versus a typical stroke play, because you can hit really good shots here and not get rewarded for them. You can very much get caught into weather waves, front nine and back nine play very differently, where the wind can be a massive factor. And in a match play, it doesn't really matter because you're just up against your opponent that you're playing with. He's going through the same thing here. But a P-dye track, we've seen a number of them. We saw recently a TPC Sawgrass, shorter course where we have a number of really relatively short par fours. We don't see a lot of par fours nowadays. They're even under 450 very often. So, having a couple that are under 400 yards makes it a little interesting, and, makes kind of for a perfect match play course, because it really brings everyone in. And we've seen, the Kuchers, the Kisners, all these type of guys really contend here. So you don't really necessarily need to be a bomber. So let's start and look at that first group here. John Rahm, we'll go through these groups and look at some pricing. If there's anything, we can kind of buzz through it. If there's nothing that really jumps out at you, talk about who you like to move forward. And if you want to toss those up here, Rahm gets a fairly nice draw, considering, he has not played at his level of late, a little bit wonky, but neither really is anyone in his group, though I could say Cameron Young has been playing pretty well. But Reed Young and Sebastian Munoz, who could win this and get swept, because we know how Munoz goes. Any early leans here, Jeff, is just kind of a no-brainer for Rahm, or what are your thoughts? Looking at Rahm here in the betting markets, what is he priced at to win this group?
It's like 125. I mean, you're paying to bet Rahm.
Oh yeah.
I looked at my numbers. It's like, well, Christ, he should wreck these guys right now.
Yeah, plus 130 DraftKings. Yeah,
but I stayed away from this group completely.
Anything to bet on here, Jeff?
I haven't made a bet. It's Rahm made it through a lot of cuts and like deciding if I would bet him. It's always hard to put red ink through him for me. I'm still a sucker for how great he can be. I think he caught a great draw. Yeah. Cameron Young's getting a lot of buzz. I know a lot of people love him. it's now to the point where, like, okay, like, I get it. He's really good and he could set up well here, but this is Jon Rahm. So for me, it's Jon Rahm. I think the best bet you could make is 14-1. So gonna avoid making that bet, I guess. And then just have to watch it happen. But I'm really mad at myself because I stupidly bet him to win the Players, just trying to get cocky and call his win. And in hindsight, like, this event just kind of sets up so much better for a guy in his situation. If that makes any sense. Like, right in front of you, task oriented, like, he just everything he's been excelling at, like, should just work perfectly in match play, to be honest.
Yeah, I believe it was Justin Ray. I think he had said in 2 of the 4 years he's swept his pod. So again, that speaks to who he is as the world number one. And again, that's probably more descriptive than predictive. I don't know who he played in all of those, but again, I do think that we agree that he got a nice draw here with, Munoz has not had a long and successful track record in match play. Cam Young never been here. And based on the quotes, this is a course, Scheffler won here last year in his debut. This is not his first time on this track as, a Texas boy who's very, very familiar here, playing here quite often in college, and Patty Reed is not in good form. So nice draw for Rahm, plus 130 on DraftKings. Not a great number, probably a no bet for me, but I think Rahm makes a lot of sense. How about the next one? Brooksy, there is the last, I guess, A in the group there at number 16. Shane Lowy's been playing really good golf. Varner's been up and down of late, but again, in the mix, tasting some weekend smoke a little bit. And so has EVR here, Jeff. Any thoughts on this next group 16?
Yeah, no bets for me. Certainly was surprised to see how poorly Shane Lowry's performed in match play in his career, I guess even at this course. But right now I would pick him to win this group, guys. I think maybe in a bigger theory match play conversation for a quick moment. The last 2 years, Horschel at 90-1, to me, that's just an outlier. If it happens again, I'm going to get burned. And I'm okay with that. Even Kisner at 50 or 55 or 60, whatever. And the one before Mayo called it at 50. So I was lucky to ride his coattails. That being said, it was also Bubba. Going back almost a full decade here, guys, and maybe that's unfair because it's different courses, but it's Donald, Mahan, I think like Keimer, Poulter, Kuchar, and then the runs of number ones in the world like Rory and Day Twice and Dustin. These are all guys with like preeminent world match play experience that went on to win this event. I don't know whether it's a schedule change, a location change. This course can make it more of a wild card, but and even add Bubba to that because he's a preeminent world match play rostered player, Ryder Cup, President's Cup. Last couple of years, we've gotten a couple of these like fringy wild card guys. I'm always of the belief it's just going to go back to the true better players. You think there's anything to it, or it's just such a small field? The Ryder Cup and the Ryder Cup teams are made up of the best players. That's who's obviously going to win these things. And I'm thinking way too much into it.
Oh, that makes sense.
I'm with you. I bet Lowry. I took him at the price. I looked at his record. That stinks. I did find a nice website that listed all the match play. I'm gonna send you guys this. I think Ron might have used this for some of his stuff. That did scare me seeing his match play record. But then I went back and looked, and I don't think 2017 Shane Lowy is the Shane Lowy we're seeing right now. Like I have him playing at a very high level, and just even looking back at last year, he lost to Cantlay, he lost to Rahm. He ended up losing to Ryan Palmer 4-2. I'm not sure that's a great one, but losing to Cantlay and Rahm last year, and then he beat Munoz. That was 2021.
You also have to look at Shane Lowy if you want to bet him, because outright betting is all about convincing yourself reasons to make a bet or not make a bet. And if I like Shane Lowy, I'm allowed to think that making that Ryder Cup team and the experience he had, let alone the team experience, wasn't as ideal as I think any of them wanted. His specific experience, you're allowed to think in his first match play after that, he's just you're allowed to bump him up 4 points for no other reason, like in your mind. And you have to convince yourself of these things in that outright market. That's why it's so silly and unquantifiable and ridiculous with variables.
Yeah, the ball striking has been good too. So you can talk to yourself into current form being pretty nice here as well. So I have no problem with the Shane Lowy pick. I think he's probably live to come out of this top tier too. Like I think he can get in a spot where, yeah, he played good in the Ryder Cup. He didn't play particularly well in the match play section, but yeah, I mean, I think he got a little taste of it and he's been playing good golf and no problem with that at all. I think Brooks is just a guy that, to Jeff's earlier point, like I think Brooks is a guy that you're either on or you're not. Like you're either a Brooks guy and you bet him, or you're just like, hey, that guy's not for me. And, I'll maybe consider him at big events. But, current Brooks is just a guy not for me. And I have no problem going with the Irishman, assuming he has no hangover here, that he can run a little hot with the putter and compete with these other guys.
But could you not assume, like, is Brooks' struggles being or I think maybe his good plays being underrated in some respects. Phoenix, Honda, last week. I would argue he hasn't been healthy at this event for quite some time because it feels like he hasn't gone into the Masters healthy for quite some time, and these have piggybacked each other, let alone the cancellation. But also you go by what he did at the last Ryder Cup, and he's got his own, like, we make fun of Xander and some other players for not winning in a while. For Brooks's head, whatever he hasn't won in, he's multiplied it by like 10 in his own mind. And he's a 1 seed only because we got a pretty large number of no-shows this week. He's the perfect, like, chase the carrot right in front of you. I could stare at you for 18 holes. I'm going to beat you. I joked with Mayo. The reason he won in Phoenix his last win is because somehow James Hahn became the leader in that event. And Brooks just got into, I get a look at the guy I got to beat. He's with me. Now I'm going to make this a thing. And Brooks became dominant. I know that can sound so silly, but between his lack of health really ever at this event, I think his underrated good form, I've considered betting it. I'm just afraid of the road. That part of the quadrant. Too many dragons, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. You want to get him to come out of this group. It's fairly close. The market seems to think that Lowry is very much live here. Brooks at 210, Lowry at 220 on FanDuel. So they definitely think that that's a little closer than maybe your world golf rankings here would indicate. So maybe some good value on Brooks.
Yeah, a good point by Jeff, too, as far as Brooks wouldn't be a Group A, a 1 seed. He'd be in that Group B strictly. I mean, just off the top of my head, Rory and Hideki are ahead of him.
Burns would have jumped him also, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's at least 2 or 3 guys that are not here that would have bumped him down to, Group B, and he'd be like, he would have been.
And from a betting perspective, I could argue I'd rather Brooks as a B because he would have taken that even more personally.
Agreed.
And we're talking outright betting, and I don't know, like his variance is such to the ceiling, it could pop. I would love, I mean, Rahm versus Brooks in the next round would be a fun one, but sort of, I think overall we're going to call Lowry for this. That's who I would still go with.
Yeah, and I did not end up betting Lowry to win this tournament. I strictly am betting him to win this group at plus 250 or whatever it was. I'll have to double check. So I'm staying away from a lot of the full outrights, but I did bet some shit, 220 plus 220 this morning. So that's the only one I have, I think, in this whole section.
There's some 35s out there for Brooks to win the whole thing. If you, it's a taste for that for you. So yeah, interesting for sure. Next one is DJ at the top of the board, Max Homa, Matthew Wolf, and Mackenzie Hughes. Not a ton of match play experience in this group with DJ, who has been, again, similar to Brooks. Maybe I think the perception versus the reality of how he's been playing. Obviously, the 63 at Sawgrass in that 4th round is going to boast a lot of the strokes gain metrics. But, I don't think I'm ready to necessarily bury DJ. And again, we talked about it earlier with just kind of the setup for this course. It's going to force a lot of wedges in your hand because we don't have a lot of lengthy par 4s. Obviously, the length is going to play well to put yourself in position to give yourself eagle opportunities on the par 5s, which is massive here. But when you look at wedge play, 125 yards and in, DJ is the best in the field in birdie or better rates at 38.5%. Oh, like pretty large margin too. Like he is way ahead of the field. You get a lot of these other elite guys, they're in the high 20s, DJ closer to 40. I think this is a really nice spot if you want to get at the top of the board on DJ in this quad at plus 175. Jeff, any interest or thoughts on this group?
Very tempted for DJ, even from the outright market, especially because of who he could potentially, if he was able to win this group, how well it would set up for him in his next pod. So yeah, but also that there's a lot of love for Max Homa this week as well. So it's a bit of a difficult one to decipher at the moment.
Jeff, did you make any plays on this one?
I like Dustin Johnson in this one. I agree with you. I like DJ.
Andy, how about you? Any bets here? I mean, Mac Hughes is a guy that is very streaky, and we know putting is going to matter. But again, not a lengthy history of any of these other guys here from a match play standpoint.
Yeah, this is a group that I made when I ranked them this morning. One of the easier groups as a whole, as far as just overall strength of the groups. So I looked at Homa. His price stinks, in my opinion. If you can get DJ at plus 175 and Homa's 220, I'm probably betting. And I've stayed away from the guy for the most part because I haven't been really understanding where his head's at as far as golf goes. But if you're getting those two prices, like DJ is kind of a no-brainer. If Homa and DJ's prices are that close, even with the high variance event, like plus 175 on him is pretty tempting. If I had to bet it, it would be for sure my guy, Paulina's man here.
And to Jeff's point, the Group 8 winner there is going to get the Group 9 winner, and that is probably one of the weaker groups here. Bryce in the top, we obviously haven't seen him since February or so when he withdrew from the Saudi. Obviously, it makes sense to think that he's here to get his game right and get some reps in pre-Masters. Taylor Gooch here, and then a couple of guys that are pushing, Championships Tour status with Lee Westwood and Richard Bland. Any thoughts here, Jeff?
Well, I think that's maybe a lot of the reason I've seen so much Homa in the outright market, because people like they're taking their shot that Homa can beat DJ, therefore setting him up for that matchup versus this group winner. Yeah, I mean, I'm blindly picking Taylor Gooch. If I don't really know what Bryson's story is. I'm not even 100% confident he plays a Friday match.
Yeah.
Which could grossly affect this group. If you wanted to get frisky, I guess you could go Bland. Westwood got hard done by last year, lost on a hole-in-one to Sergio in one of those dreaded playoffs that we're going to see Friday, which is I've never come out of the right side of those. At least my perception is my reality on those, okay? I'm allowed to, like, they sting. They really do sting, because when you make an outright bet on these, you're kind of getting to Saturday, like you feel like you want a mini battle in some respects. Yeah. And when they died late on a Friday, guess we're all familiar with our golf bets dying late on a Friday.
Yeah.
I've said too many words for this group. Like, I didn't really think about it. I didn't run to make a bet on Taylor Gooch, but you're asking me to pick it. Taylor Gooch through.
Yeah, last year both Bryson and Westwood came into this event in solid form. And remember, they obviously played weekend rounds together, back-to-back weeks at Sawgrass and API. And that makes sense for Westwood to build a little different form coming in here of late. I took Gooch. I know Andy messaged me this morning and asked me to talk him off Gooch. And then I shared with him the write-up that I had just got done for my article coming up later on betspertsgolf.com. So I cannot talk you off of Gooch. Again, just a nice draw at top 10 in the birdie or better from 125 and in. So like we know that the short irons and the wedges work for Taylor Gooch. And again, just the questions in the group. So Andy, it's a sweep on Gooch.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same situation. You got a big name at plus 175, your second choice at plus 220, same as the DJ Homa dynamic in a weak group, except you've got an injured top dog. And yeah, if you bet Bryson, I don't know what you're doing, because who knows what you're going to get for, like Jeff said, guy might not finish his group.
But even if he's playing well, like this could be the soundbite that's so embarrassing, but This is
until
a
it's
lot
time.
of golf this week. It's a very strange week to be coming back from injury. It's a lot of golf if you intend on playing well. It's a perfect amount of golf if you intend on playing poorly. Automatic payday. It's 3 rounds. You can end a match at any point. Like, technically, you don't feel like going 18 on the first day. You can literally lose with 6 holes left on Wednesday, and it could be on purpose. I'm just saying, like, with him, who the F knows?
Yeah.
But the amount of golf it takes to actually win this thing, it's a lot of golf. It's a lot of golf. And to a bigger picture conversation, guys, it's the reason Rory's not here. The players and match play is a very awkward Masters prep. Very awkward. I know a lot of the top guys have kind of complained about it. Puts them in an awkward spot. Like, those aren't ideal places to get yourself in ideal Masters tune-in form. Houston does a better job of that, and I guess it'll be spoken about next week. But yeah, Bryson, if you got the balls to do it and you win, like, I'll just congratulate you, I guess.
Just play Bryson on DraftKings if you have a taste for him at all. I guess, like, it's going to be cheaper for you. You want some access. You'll be, leveraging ownership. I think that's just a better way to get Bryson action if you have any sort of inkling to do so. I think just talking through this makes me feel even really better about just looking at these 2 or 4 groups about DJ. Just the way he lined up here. If he wants to, he could really make a killing here. So 22s out there on DJ are starting to look pretty interesting here, closer to the top of the board. Let's flip the card here, Andy. See what we got next. We can get into the next group.
Oh yeah.
Group 2, Colin Morikawa at the top. Jason Kokrak did not look good last week. Sergio, in case you haven't heard 16 times already this week, lives in Austin and likes this course, has fared well here historically. And then Bobby Mack played well here last year. Not a lot of lefties in the field, not a lot of lefties in here historically, but they have fared well. We've not seen Bobby Mack stateside in quite a while, but again, that fits a little bit of narratives here. Jeff, what are your thoughts on Group 2?
With that, I wish Bobby Mack had played. It kind of surprised me he didn't hit up Florida with, the amount of international invites that both Bay Hill and the Honda give. With his status, he's also in the Masters. So, he must have really been bunkered down, or maybe just getting some R&R. I didn't overthink this because maybe I'm being unfair and dismissing Morikawa. But from the outright market, which is kind of where my mind is thinking, it's Sergio who I've been drawn to. No, you made all the dots, but Sergio in a comfortable place is the type of place I like to bet on. Sergio, he might not win the match. Like, I don't know. Sergio, I have no interest in Kokrak. I'm fading the elite. Wish Bobby Mack had played. Sergio, slide on in there, a respectable number even in the outright market if you've got that sort of taste, because this quadrant is winnable, certainly.
Yeah, there are some 55s out there. I think DraftKings is knowing that people might want to be on Sergio because he is much shorter there. But yeah, what are your thoughts here, Andy? I don't think we've talked about this one yet.
Kind of the same as far as Sergio is probably the value here. If I had to bet this one, I ended up just completely staying away from this quadrant or whatever we're calling these mini sections. I suppose a group. And it's called Group 2. And I think Sergio at his price compared to how Morikawa's been playing later is the best bet here. I'm not that excited enough that I'm actually adding it to the card. And also it's just like a case of, hey, Colin Morikawa, his ceiling is the best player in the world at any given point, especially on his second shot. Like if he suddenly, and it's not like he's never going to figure it out and we're going to see issues like we did last week. He's going to figure it out. He's going to be fine. He's probably going to win an event this year. And I'm not super excited to just fade him instantly in a three match round robin here with Sergio at that price. So stay away from me.
Yeah. I like Sergio as well. Morikawa, they are shrinking in the group market too, which is interesting. There might be some value here as we get closer to teeing off on Morikawa. But how about Group 15? This is an interesting one. Answer is a guy that I think we think about at times. when we're looking at Pete Dye tracks, because he's accurate off the tee, the ball striking can get good. Putting obviously runs hot and cold. Webb, again, could not be more of a Pete Dye guy when we look at where he's played well historically. And then we got a couple of lefties. Harmon has played really nicely here. Bubba's won here before. Jeff, any thoughts on Group 15? It's pretty packed, and I think you can make a case for any of these guys.
Yeah, so this is the Pete Dye specialist group, really, with Answer, Webb, and Bubba. They would all rank quite highly. Webb, if you believe that like he's got something fixed, then maybe he's the guy here. I'm just a bit of like I kind of said off the top, I'm torn, so I'm more of an Answer stan than I am for anyone else. He would be my pick here. I am still not over how he couldn't advance last year. It really brings into perspective how crazy this thing can come, because it felt like had he gone through the pod, like a couple people felt like they were in a perfect position to do what Billy Horschel did.
Yeah.
He had won his first 2 matches, was up 3 up on Hovland on his back 9, and ended losing that match, ended up in a playoff where he missed a 4-footer to extend the match. He was literally playing perfect for the first 2.5 rounds of the event. I'm going to go back to Abe, who hasn't made the huge jump in form that we'd like to see, but steadily is kind of getting back to being that player. So for a 1 seed, I'm going to back Abe Answer in this group.
Yeah, I bet Abe last year as an outright too, so I remember feeling burned. How that played out last week.
As Billy Horschel won, because they might have even had to play right away. I was like, that was supposed to be Abe. I think I won and done. I was all in, and I was just bitter. It's like seeing the Braves win the World Series, and you're like, my favorite team could have won 83 games and done that.
Andy Ron, our guy, PGA Splits 101, talked with Webb's caddy last week, and guy had said he was maybe 80% tops, and then goes out and has a really nice Thursday, Friday, and then shit hit the fan a little bit on the weekend. He's just not playing a lot of golf, and as Jeff has pointed out, Webb is in for a lot of golf this week if he's to continue. Any thoughts on Group 15 here?
His desire to play 7 rounds of golf in 5 days can't be super high.
It's got to be low.
And I mean, just based on how he's playing, I'm off. I played a little Bubba here. Just the price to win the group. I'm also a big Abe stan. He was fine last week. Actually, Bubba played worse last week than out of the 2. It's more of a price play, and based off a few things I'm using for however I'm trying to figure out match play, which is impossible if you want to try looking at numbers, because it's not the same kind of golf. We talked about this 3 different times. If your opponent hits one real close on their second shot and you're in big trouble, normal golf, you're laying up, just trying to get out of that hole without a disaster. Match play, you got to hit something nuts and try to equal him on the hole. So I'll take Bubba in a spot like that. So not an outright again, no outright on Bubba, but a little bit at like plus 250 to win this group for me.
Group 7 is very interesting. There is not a more Xander Schauffele type of event to get a W at than a match play, right? We want no cut events. We want Olympics. We want Tournament of Champions. We want anything kind of off the board from a standard 4-day cut events for Xander. We have it here, and then he gets, I think, the easiest draw by far. Tony is spraying it off the tee for a solid 2 months. Lucas Herbert, we don't see very often, and I don't think is of the caliber of a lot of even some other, I guess, C caliber guys here. And then I don't know much about. We talked about, we just don't see him very often. Very, very soft draw for Xander. Plus 175 to win the group, which is available. I think is down to plus 150 in a lot of spots. And then I think there are some 24 still available as this morning on FanDuel to win this whole thing. Jeff, talk to me about Group 7.
Group 7 for me is Xander all in. It was I love Finau. If I get clipped, it'll bug me, and I'm seeing some bigger Finau numbers show up. But you kind of put it on a tee there, Andy. It checks every Xander box, like so many events do. That's the frustrating part. You could get to that point, but I was able to get a 28-1, and seeing the draw made me emboldened that I had to bet it, and I did bet it. And I do believe for a guy in his situation, and much like Rahm, much like in the case for these really elite players who find themselves in a drought, I feel like this event is so perfect for them because it's a premier event and it allows just the carrot to remain in front of them and not have to focus about any other variables along the way, let alone how consistent and steady Xander really is. You're going to have to beat him. He won't beat himself. I don't trust anyone in the pod. Yeah. So there, Xander through this whole thing. I'm hoping Xander, I'm going to be picking him deep.
Yeah.
Obviously I bet him to win.
It's one of 2 outright bets that I've made so far as well. Love the Xander play. And he will have a challenge here in Group 10 because it is a very loaded group. When you consider the form that Alex Noren is in, for him to be the D player in this group, considering his history historically of match play success too. Corey Connors, again, ball striking, his only career win here in Texas. Paul Casey, really good form, played really well, obviously, at Sawgrass. And then Louis playing really well as well here. Andy, what about Group 10? This is a pretty tough one.
Yeah, and again, in my power rankings, I have it the second toughest. I did give the other one some love, but I mean, we said this yesterday. If there is a group of death, this is a heavy candidate. I want no part of this. These are all guys I love. These are all guys I bet constantly. Make me pick. This is like Sophie's Choice. Get it on 2 TVs at once. There's 4 kids. I can't pick. Like, I'm not betting any of these guys here. I couldn't bet outrights on any of them. This is an insane group. Like I'm excited to watch these matchups. That's about it. I won't even pick one for the show right now. I refuse. I abstain.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same as Ant. Like what an unfortunate scene. And this is just unfortunate to the true golf like hardo, because this group does nothing for TV. It's not like they're premier or attractive or name brand guys that the TV, we're going to get to see a lot of their match outside of the 17th, 18th hole handshake. It just sucks for us that all these guys got potted together. I, for the purposes of shows and content, will make a pick, and I'll take the very popular. I'm not going to abandon him because he's popular in this moment in time. Alex Noren, I am going through, but I hope these guys like just beat the crap out of each other, and whoever wins is just abused, and then can maybe help Xander. But in the next, what would come next? But I'm gonna pick Noren here when forced to make a call.
Yeah, they can go to a 4-man playoff, and we can, just hopefully it goes nice and long, and then we just make it nice and easy for Xander in that next round would be outstanding. Let me find the tweet from Justin Ray, which is just wild, because I guess I hadn't thought of Noren as that kind of guy. He is won or halved 81.4% of the holes he has played at Austin Country Club. That's the highest rate of anyone in the field this week with at least 60 holes played. That is sizable. Again, descriptive more than predictive. We don't know who he was up against in those instances, but again, familiarity, good form. He is playing really good golf. So again, if he is going to be the longest odds in the group, I think it makes a lot of sense. Group 3 has a couple of guys that I know golf Twitter loves to bet at the top, with Victor Hovland and Will Zalatoris, Cam Tringali, and Sepp Straka in there as well. Jeff, any thoughts on Group 3?
Okay. This group for me, I am doing what crazy people do. I'll just come right out in front of it. Match Play, the ultimate equalizer, is on the greens. That savage par save, that dagger birdie from outside, like from double distance of your birdie putt inside of his, all of it. And with Willie Z, I don't know that I'm getting the circle of trust, but I'm betting Will Zalatoris this week. And I'm afraid that his strengths are neutralized because it feels like he's at his best on super hard courses. But I really just do feel like the format will work for him. Either he'll be great or you'll have to be really good to beat him. because he's not gonna say this. He's not gonna beat himself. God forbid, I hope. But I haven't been one of those people that bet him a ton. So I've been able to giggle at the short misses, and people can giggle at me this week when they happen because I haven't been betting him. So I've kind of been enjoying as he's played himself out of it, at least mentally, with some of those situations. But I'm in. I, of course, fear Hovland. And I mentioned about a few minutes ago that comeback he had on Answer last year, even though he was out of contention in the event. Him doing that this year would feel far less like I was angry last year when Victor did that to me. But now that just feels normal for Victor. Like he can just wagon you off the golf course. Certainly. I'm taking the odds. I took Will Zalatoris 50-1 to win the tournament. Therefore, we'll bet Will Zalatoris to win that group.
That was the interesting thing to me when I looked at it, is because I have been betting Will Zalatoris and firing at 33s and 35s in a 160-man field. And now he's out here at a 50 in a 64-man field. And just that math is like, again, to your point, like doesn't mean it's a good number per se, but again, it's the perception of I've been firing at him in the mid 30s. And now I'm getting a 50. I know it's a tough draw, both in his group and then kind of this entire bracket here, but I haven't pulled the trigger, but it is the one that I've been kind of tempted by, just number based. Andy, any thoughts here on group 3?
Yeah, and I get the prices are different, but I'm just so close with Hovland and Zalatoris right now in my numbers. I love them both. Again, I don't know how we did groups 10 and 3 back to back. These are like two of my children. Yeah. And also before the draw even come out, I put in a tiny Tringali outright at a huge number. So I'm just going to let this one fly. But yeah, if I had to pick someone if I take all my numbers and take putting completely out of it, Will Zalatoris is a better golfer than Victor Hovland. So, I mean, if all things are equal on the dance floor eventually, I would take Willie Z for sure.
I got a buddy going on Friday to the golf, and I'm just like, that Hovland-Willie Z matchup is the matchup of matchups.
For sure.
This will hit. I think we're all around the same age. I essentially said this is like Kelly Taylor versus Kelly Kapowski. Like, this is, oh my God, these two. No offense to Colin Morikawa, who I could make a very flattering compliment if he was in this one, but this is probably the at least the predetermined matchup on the entire round robin format that I'm excited for the most. Maybe someone could remind me of some rivalry. There's obviously pending matchups if guys win and move on that we'll see that I'm like excited to hope to see happen, but the one matchup that is ingrained happening that I can't wait for, my favorite, the whole slate, this one right here. I'd pay. I'd be embarrassed to tell people what I'd pay if they actually just let me watch it, like how we want to watch it, but you know how it works.
Yeah. No, it'll be a good one for sure.
The people that pay extra to like walk with the group, you know, like the featured spectator or whatever, this would be worth it. That would be worth it.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be a show. This is gonna be oh man. Yeah. Yep. So I'm all Willie Z. It's having to cheer against Victor, like, you know, because I've bet Willie Z. It's gonna be so weird tomorrow. You know, like he's playing Straka, and I'm like, come on, Sepp, put him out. Didn't think I'd be there, but like that's I guess where we'll be.
14 is interesting too. We have Neiman, who's been in good form, obviously coming off of the win in LA. Kevin Na coming back, obviously having a baby of recent. And then Russell Henley, ball striking. We love Henley. Again, it will pop in any model that anyone ever runs because he is really solid, consistently tee to green. Matt McNeely knew he was getting in here, did not make the trip, and is stayed and got this spot here because Sam Burns is out. We like Mav typically on shorter courses. Again, you can make a case for any of these guys. To me, Jeff, do you have a thought here on Group 14?
This is kind of one I'm naked on. All the data points would say Henley. I kind of just followed them. I will say Neiman is maybe the one seed that I have seen get Neiman or Hatton. We'll get to. It's seen getting the least amount of potential steam. You know what? I'd say Neiman has gotten the least amount of steam. I've seen his number get bigger. this week. Maybe it's something to look at, but I would make a bet of Nah or Henley. And I lean Henley, but this is a no action zone for me at the moment.
Andy, anything here for you?
Yeah, I'm a little low on a couple things Nah does, especially, I mean, greens and regulation, a few other things I don't love about his game, especially now coming off the weird layoff, baby swag or whatever. But
That son
I
of
don't
a
know
bitch
if
will
baby,
make you putt them all out, though. He'll make you putt them all
yeah,
out.
he will. Like he's a real sea sucker about that. But the baby swag only works with stroke play, I think. So Henley for me in this one. I like him quite a bit, and I'm fine fading a favorite in a group that isn't getting a lot of love in Joaquin. That's fine. The prices aren't that different, you know.
You wish Nah had like a burger, a Hatton, like some real feisty MFer in that group who that could be a thing, but I don't see any sort of thing happening. Happening there.
Maybe he matches up later with Keegan and his caddy later on.
We always get something like this. We'll always get something, and this would be a good event for the Netflix cameras to be at. Because
for sure.
I'm not a racing guy, but at least there's rival. Like I don't even know who likes and doesn't like each other in golf for me to care about. Whatever, different story, different time. Let's bracket along.
Group 6 has JT at the top, obviously probably playing as well as anyone in the world. Hasn't closed per se, but again, is playing really good golf. Kevin Kisner, he can play as won here before. This is a Kisner type of event and course we would think of. Leishman, this is Leishman kind of year, like Leishman heading into the Masters. And then Luke List, obviously the range of outcomes for Luke List is as broad as anyone. Andy, I know you got a Luke List sprinkle before we saw the draw. Any thoughts on that, expanding on that, and what do you think of Group 6?
It stinks that Justin's in his group, but you knew one of the top 16 was going to be, and you have to play them all eventually. But yeah, I did sprinkle on Luke List to win, Luke List to be Final Four, whatever, make the semifinals at least. So I'm rolling with that. I think the JT number is almost bettable though at plus 135. Christ, that guy's he's playing as good as anybody on tour and doesn't have a win. Like his performance for Sunday was great. Everything was working out for him. He's playing as well as he can right now. I'm worried he's gonna put on a jacket here in a couple weeks, and I don't have any exposure to him. So Luke List is my guy. I'm sticking with my guns from pre-tournament or pre-draw. And just, I'm not going to double down at plus 380, but it's a big number for a guy with a wild variety of outcomes.
Yeah. What do you get here, Jeff?
I'm also going to be fading Justin, who I'm not sure how popular he is this week. It's weird to talk about popularity because normally you talk about it in a DraftKings or a DFS sense, and that's so its own different beast this week. Kisner, I've seen a lot of people betting Kisner. I get it. I'm not one of them. I'd make the call on Leishman here, though. I think this pod is more in play than some people could think. I was tempted by a Leishman 80-1 full event outright here, but it's Mark Leishman who's getting my call to win this pod.
Love it. Yeah, I would lean. I was between JT and Leishman. I think just kind of want to see JT and Jordan if we can get that to move forward, just because I think that would be. There wouldn't be necessarily any heat there, but I think it'd just be fun to see those guys go at it. But I think I would lean Leishman over Kisner for sure, especially considering price. I mean, 80 on Leishman, who we didn't see a ton of in Florida, but I think it looked pretty good before that, heading into that swing. So that should be an interesting one. That group 11 there is also pretty loaded, I guess. I mean, Justin Rose has not been playing good and really melted down at times. I've never really seen the temper tantrums like that. Like, I thought he was going to throw a club at some point at Sawgrass. That probably won't find its way onto the Instagram, Jeff. But Adam Scott here as well. Spieth in Texas. Keegan, not a strong track record historically in match play. But Jeff, give me your thoughts on Group 11.
Let me just find it again up here. Sorry, my thing is going haywire. I'm still a sucker for Adam Scott, guys. I am a believer. I'm maybe hoping he can save himself for the Masters. That's how crazy I am. I think we're starting to see some really nice things, especially with the putter and the around the green statistics specifically. Those are things you want to see going in the right direction. I'm willing to take on Spieth. I give little thought to Keegan despite his hot play. My mind is still wired for like an outright win potential. So in that respect, like I'm not looking for a pod crasher, despite they're very probable and we see them regularly. I'll fade the very top and find a pod crasher who isn't really one in Adam Scott. Though Justin Rose could be a sneaky little pick here, but not for me. That'd be way too off brand for match play.
Yeah, it's one of the guys. It's probably not on your card very often. Yeah, I mean, Scott's been putting so well, which is just so weird to like divorce yourself of your preconceived notions of years ago of Adam Scott. But he's just over the last 30 days has been as good as anyone on tour. Again, small sample, but he's rolling it well heading into this one. So let's move on to the final groups here. I think.
Yeah. Go look at Keegan's match play record.
Oh,
he won one in 2012 over a Jeff with a G, Ogilvy. And that was the last time I think, if I'm looking at this right. So have fun with that, Keegan.
Cantley has the top one here in the last group 4. Sanjay, Seamus Power, and Keith Mitchell, who gets in here with all of the exits. It's Cantley or nothing for me. I don't really feel good about the rest of the group per se. I love Keith Mitchell. I love how he's been playing. This is not necessarily the spot for me for Mitchell. Jeff, what are your thoughts on group 4?
Yeah, Mitchell seems fine. He's playing well, but it's hard to make another selection than Cantley. On the surface, him seemed like one of the harder number 2 players to draw, but on deep diving it a little, him is playing as bad as I can remember, which isn't horrible, but just among his standards. So Seamus might be fun and sneaky, but Cantley, I got no other words.
Jeff, any taste for group 4? Andy, I'm sorry.
You mean Andy? I'm like,
Andy,
I'm
sorry.
him.
I'm sorry.
Early. We'll work. It is still early in the morning. It's another one of my long shot outrights. I played pre-draw on Seamus. I hate his draw. I'm very mad about this. I'm a big Keith Mitchell guy. I like Sungjae long term, but like Jeff said, his play right now isn't deserving of looking at him. And Cantley at plus 160. Like if I didn't have Seamus, and I might anyway, Cantley at plus 160 to win the group is probably something I could be looking at. He's, in my medium term numbers, he's the second best golfer in the world. And he should be treated as such.
And you can make the case that this whole entire side of the bracket, at least in terms of current form, has the stronger golfers on it. I really liked Cantley this week. I thought about betting him almost to the end. There's a decision that I made that we'll talk about coming up, which is I'm being cocky about, and it's the reason I didn't bet Cantley. But also in the conscious of I'm going to convince myself to bet Cantley. You look at how he played the Players last year, I believe, and shot like 8 over before you loaded your app. Struggled really in the conditions and his driver and was kind of all over the place, but I can literally like write that off from all metrics. And that would still point to everything Andy just said. Even with those metrics, even with the player stats, I could remove them. He's still maybe the best golfer in the world in the last short term. And his number at 20, maybe even 22 to 1 to win. I didn't make the bet, but I would argue of that price point threshold, it is probably the most fair numbers. I talk about unfair, nothing's fair. I'm not calling this one fair, but it kind of feels like the most fair number of that entire lot. Now I circled around this number, bet other guys will tell you at the end, but no. Yeah. I mean, I'm picking him to win the group. I didn't bet him to win despite he's the best.
Yeah, to your point, this side is tough.
It is a tough side. And it's good. A golfer of that magnitude deserves forgiveness for a couple bad rounds on a tough course. Like Rahm was horrible at Quail Hollow last year. I think it was last year. And it's not like, oh man, we need to move this guy down a bunch. It's just like golf is hard. Even the best in the world are going to go out there and throw a 77 on the board once in a while. So I like Cantlay at this price, I think.
Group 13 probably has my second favorite pairing, right? So Jeff talked about the Willie Z and Hovland pairing because of just the nature of maybe their temperament at times. Hatton and Berger going head to head could be a lot of fun. We also have Siwoo Kim in here, who has had a nice history on die tracks, and golf betting Twitter loves Christian Bezuidenhout, and we have him in here as well. Berger's just a guy I typically find myself betting. I like him when he can get wedges in his hands. I like him in this spot when I feel like he can, have a little bit of that ego and get some of that stuff going. So, Jeff, what are your thoughts on 13?
Okay, I'm smiling, and we didn't really talk about any of our bets. You'd mentioned you'd bet Xander. I have bet Daniel Berger to win.
Yes.
Staring down the Berger-Cantlay matchup was really the delay in my entire ability to function this morning, to be perfectly honest. Like, this was just a decision, and this is kind of maybe being cocky and trying to call my shot in a contest like this in the same way maybe in your basketball bracket. You call your shot. I wish it was a better number, but it's Berger. It's 28-1. That's where the market is right now. The one thing that concerns me, Ryan, he's 3-9 all time in this in match play. He didn't have a very good Ryder Cup. I do not like that. In the opposite of Shane Lowy had a very losing team but positive experience, I'd argue Berger had a losing, like a not ideal personal experience, like from a play point POV, but clearly got to enjoy the winning team aspect of it. But I believe in these narratives, true or fake, that I've created for Daniel Berger, that he's been and I know them to be true. Like, a guy been playing cash games on those Florida greens since he was 12 years old. I am shocked at that match play record. And I lost a lot of money on this event, going back to when he had to withdraw versus Phil because he put his arm into a rock wall. And that might have been the start of a wrist injury thing that we saw linger.
Yep.
The Honda thing, I don't know. It happens. He got off to a great start at the Players, got bad weather wave, just ended up being a weird weekend, but he still played fantastic. I just believe, like, I don't know, time is now. He's the 17 seed, G. Feinberg 17. Like, I can make weird things now. I mean, I made enough. Now I just made that up. But yeah, I'm scared about the Cantlay matchup, but this is me being cocky. I think Daniel Berger wins this event. I woke up afraid of Siwoo and Bez, but then I decided, no, this is a strictly Hatton thing. Although history will tell me I'm wrong in that regard, because this event gets freaky. But the swagger, I'm D. Beazle.
Yeah, I love it too. The Hatton thing too. So Hatton, like, early in Florida was all putter, and it had been really open about how he was struggling tee to green. And then it kind of flipped at the Valspar. He couldn't make a putt, but he was just dialed in. So, like, I'm a little worried about if those things can marry. But if you look at his last 10, I think he's 9-2 in his career, but he's 1-7-2 in his last 10 match play. So, like, Hatton does not have a great recent over the last 4 or 5 years match play record. And I like this Berger number. He's actually technically the favorite in the pod here.
Andy, that was my call yesterday.
Yep.
I said I think he's going to be favored because it's close. And yeah, Hatton, API and the Players, you gain 8 strokes over the course of a tournament on the putting green. Both times, don't win either tournament. Something else is going on in the game. It's not like he finished poorly, but what Hatton's doing is not sustainable. I don't believe in him long term. I bet against him 2 times last week. I have a Daniel Berger to win this group that I love, and now I am forced. You have forced my hand into betting this outright so we can victory lap this as a team next week when DB takes the whole bracket down. One shining moment for Daniel Berger. So I'll add an outright if I can find a 28.
I was proud of Berger with the whole Hovland thing at, with the out of bounds thing, because I was expecting him to get a little bit more heated. It was just so off brand for both of them. I Vic to, like, kind of bury and hold in and really anchor down on what he saw, which is fine. I'm not saying he's wrong.
I don't know how off brand it is.
Really? Okay.
We've gone to the point where he followed Reed into the woods once,
It's true.
right?
It's true. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
God.
true.
And apparently, I think he played early groups with Spieth last week and was complaining about Spieth's free drop out of the bush, which we were all annoyed about. So he's kind of might be, as I'm trying to figure out, like most likely to give us our incident this week. If we did a draft, he would be higher than you would think. At least I would.
He just kills you with a smile, you know, that baby.
Yeah, I don't know. He's gonna fight for everything. Maybe that's. I mean, I could maybe make a joke that maybe I'm allowed to make, but he's gonna fight for everything.
I bet on Nelly and her father in the father-son tournament. That's not just fathers and sons, obviously, because her father had been caught doping way back in the day playing tennis. And I said, I will always bet on someone who's willing to cheat in an event like this. So like that just boosts Daniel.
I
Daniel
didn't say he
Berger
was
is
willing to cheat.
Oh, I am. I'll say it right now. If he not cheat, let's say take advantage of drop rules or whatever it takes because it's match play. I like someone who's willing to.
Yeah, he's probably
push it to the edge
of the rules in the same way other players have been famous to know them, or at least he pretends to know them. I don't know. Again, I may be creating things from the little we get to actually know of these guys, which could be fake also.
Yeah, give me Daniel Belichick here.
I'm not even offended by that at all. Group 5 is very interesting where we have 3 Englishmen and Scotty, who again has been in incredible form and played here once, made it to the finals, but again loves this track and has played here a lot collegiately. This one's tough, Jeff. What are your thoughts on Group 5?
Geez, I hate leading off in a group where I really just want to stand for my guy, but a very interesting group. Scheffler versus those British Bulldogs. I not really here for Poulter, so came down to Fleetwood or Fitzpatrick, and I'm here for Fleetwood and the way he's been playing right now. He makes mistakes, but sort of something we could have talked about with some of the bigger players like a Bryson. You know, the bigger problems are just a hole. And it seems like he's had a lot of birdie opportunities because I've been betting him a lot the last few weeks in Florida, which I normally do. We're out of Florida, still got a little piece of Fleetwood, who I think is between Scotty and Fitzpatrick, who's very kind of popular at the moment, and Poulter, who is revered in this event and the format. I hope Fleetwood spoils everyone's party in this little thing.
Andy Poulter is 47, 19, and 5 in match play in his career. He did get lambasted by Scotty here last year, 5 and 4. But I mean, that's an incredible sample size. But yeah, what are your thoughts here on Group 5?
I mean, he's just an absolute muppet. Like, I wouldn't want to play against him in any like Ryder Cup. I think maybe only one match. I think he only had one match play at Whistling, but I'm sure he won it. Like, he's got to be annoying to play. I used to hate this guy's guts.
But maybe these other Englishmen are less like.
It's true.
The ones now you wish it was got more veteran team room guys that would like literally be able to tell Ian. Like if Sergio played Ian, he could literally just be like, "Fuck off, man! Like your shtick's not here for like I'm not here for your shtick." You know what I mean? In some respects, so we'll see. But I'm not here to besmirch Ian Poulter either. Those numbers are ungodly. And I remember when he took this thing down, I believe it was Dove Mountain then in Arizona. So, yeah, but I'm not shifting. Fleetwood for me. Although Scheffler and the Texas thing and his wagon to the finals last year and a lot of the career comps people want to make that, you know, this could just be an insane year. No one winning would surprise me. I'm sorry if I said nothing while saying too many words, but I'm taking Fleetwood.
I said I wouldn't bet this group. I'm like, I'm not going to bet Scotty Scheffler at like plus 150 to win this group. And then the prices came out and the respect for the Englishman was high enough where I bet Scotty Scheffler to win this group.
Makes sense.
You have a child, a homeless person, and a tosser, a tosser like Poulter, who, again, all the respect in the world for Poulter for how he's done in match play. But I used to hate this guy. He's grown on me a little. But I'm more worried about him than the other two, honestly. And I love Fitzpatrick. I bet him in some matchups last week. He played great, but Scheffler at that price for me is a play, even if the whole world is betting him because he's from Texas.
I know. And he's talked about how well he knows his course and how he's at such an advantage. Fitzpatrick has played outside of getting caught in the wrong side of the weather wave at Sawgrass. Fitz has been playing really good golf. I mean, it was my main outright play last week, and caught some stuff on the weekend. But yeah, he's been playing really well.
If Bay Hill was another 40 minutes, he's probably the winner there. The way that one was trending. I'm not betting Matthew Fitzpatrick. I'd rather pay like double to go to a nicer restaurant, if that makes any sense. Like if he's 40, I'd rather pay into the 25s and just, that's all for, that's it.
Perhaps the weakest group here to finish does have the defending champ, with all due respect. And we got Thomas Peters, Tom Hoagie, and Min Woo Lee. I got in on Hoagie pre-pods at 100-1. I just think, again, that guy just is one of us. I think he's got kind of that gambler, give me heads up kind of mentality, and think he got a really nice draw in terms of how things could break in comparison to some of these other spots. But Feimer, let you kick us off here to bring us home with Group 12.
I agree with the Hoagie play. I kind of regret not betting it myself. I would say no one has tumbled like Hoagie, but I made my move on Peters. I've been waiting for him to wake up since he's come to America, and I'm hoping the format does him right. Hoagie was 100, Peters was 100. I wouldn't have thought it was crazy. I had a moment where I thought about betting both of them, but in the end, I lean Peters, and I'm just a total Billy Horschel fade, like in almost anything. I don't bet him.
Same, but it's just a guy I typically don't bet. Andy, any final thoughts on Group 12?
Yeah, my numbers tell me to bet Billy Horschel, so I am not betting Group 12.
See, he has like that Floyd. I don't want to give him that much status.
That was a hell of a comparison, Jeff.
But he's one of those players that people literally don't like. Therefore you can get maybe better numbers than he's like. He's disrespected in the betting market because people genuinely don't like him. And you could take me anecdotally and Ryan anecdotally as your evidence, I guess, in this instance. But speak to a lot of buddies who barely even bet golf. They can't, when they watch golf, they can't stand Billy Horschel. It's not just us. It is not just us. It resonates through the television.
It's not fun to watch play golf. He's not fun to root for. He's probably a fine guy if you're in his inner circle, but I'm sure he is. He just kind of seems like a little bit of a douchebag, not a guy you want to play golf with. So sometimes there's a lot of guys to choose from, and I will be judgmental and make a off the cuff comment and decision like that and cross the dude off my list pretty much every week. So. And definitely just the mindset of going back to the well with the guy who won last year. It's pretty easy to want to fade that just naturally as well. So, gentlemen, good job. Thank you. That was a longer haul. This is a unique event,
we're not
obviously, to go through.
Going to have a giant bracket to go through.
Yeah, but good to get a little bit of taste here. For the sake of if you are filling out a bracket, Andy, who is going to find your way, I guess, to, I don't know if you've done this. I might be asking you, and you might be unprepared of what a Final Four in your bracket would look like. But who's your winner? Who's going to the Final Four here?
Oh, yeah, I'm wildly underprepared for that. I want it to be, Luke List and Power and all the guys, all the long shots I have. But, I mean, just probably, whoever wins Group 10 between the Usti, Casey, Connors group there, I'm going to put them in the Final Four. Probably, you know what? I'll put Zalatoris in. Putter gets right, figures it out. Scotty Scheffler out of the the 4-5 section. Yep. Then that last section, I don't know, man. I'm only gonna do 3. I'm gonna be a pain about predictions, apparently. Just tell you what I'm gonna do or not. That's
the Rom Brooks DJ, I guess you would say, group there too. So yeah, I have an embarrassingly chalky.
You got to pick Lowry in that section to upset them all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Give me Shane.
Yeah, I wish I had more like deep cuts here from a Final Four standpoint. It's considering how this event is played, but I got DJ, Berger, Xander, and JT, which, again, feels like I'm not going to win anything because that's just not how this event plays itself out. But I like how they're playing, and I think Xander is the pick to win. Xander against Berger. Would love to watch that on Sunday. Would love to have some like big heavy hitters to make this Sunday thing a little bit more worthwhile. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I am also in a heavy hitters, although I made one pivot, which compared to yours makes me seem like not. And I'm going back to just this has been an event for big game hunters with preeminent just sort of match play guys. To me, the last two I'm hoping are an outlier, and we can reset when we do it next year. But Dustin Johnson will face Daniel Berger in the Final Four. Xander Schauffele will face Will Zalatoris in the Final Four. And I guess on this Redux, I'm going to just put Berger beating Willie Z, I guess. Well, that's weird. No, DJ, whatever. I gave you the Final Four. I'm going to tell you how it plays out. Yeah.
We have 3 of the same Final Four, so this is obviously going to play out that way.
But I also like from the betting perspective, and I bet Willie Z at 50. I bet Xander at 28. I bet Berger at 28. And I was able to get a Dustin 25 up here in Canada on a book. So yeah, I bet it hard, but I bet 3 big guys, and I'll be confident in any of them. If they're still alive to win it all for me. So long shots normally play well here, but they normally fizzle out. Again, Billy Horschel, go away.
Yeah, I'll have to text my guy up there to get me down on CoolBet or wherever we're getting this.
Yeah, how'd you know? Yeah,
did I guess it right?
Where the 25 on DJ I've made. So yeah,
I just threw out a random Canadian book. I almost went with gas station book, whatever that one's called.
No, we got gas station books. I do some promotion for them actually, but not the gas station venture. They've now moved online because we're becoming registered.
Yeah. So we learning a lot about that through some Canadians I know. Like, no, that's like Proline has a whole thing now. So
yeah.
But I digress. We didn't touch on Punta Cana at all. We won't, because this is already a long pod, long show. I did take a quick peek at Ron's tentative writing schedule, which he was kind of putting together to just try to figure out how he's going to manage 2 tournaments with a short week like this. Looks like he has 4 separate Punta Cana articles starting tonight with a preview of the course, tomorrow with betting, DFS, first round leader. I'll have a betting card for that. So at least 5 or 6 Punta Cana articles up on BetspertsGolf.com this week. So if you want some of that content, again, it's free this week. There's plenty of it to be had. And like Jeff and Brian said, I'm waiting until tonight at the earliest to start figuring out Punta Cana. It's life is revolving around getting ready for tomorrow for the beginning of match play first.
Yeah, I won't have any written content. I'll throw some plays into the Discord because I will definitely get some action on it, but probably a lighter card and probably an outright only approach for me at that event. So that wraps us up. Again, check out everything on the site still for free. BetspertsGolf.com. Again, find the Twitter account because there is a pinned tweet, as Andy mentioned, that has the links that'll get you everything you need to get in the Discord, to get in the newsletter, all this stuff. So excited to kick off our first maiden voyage here with Jeff. We'll be back to do it again next week. So for Jeff and Andy, I'm Ryan. We'll see you all soon. Thanks, everyone.